Thank you, thank you, thank you. Hey, Ryan. Where's the right? I hope I'm pressing the right one. Let me. Why am I in dual output? What do you mean, stream thing? I'm gonna hope this is the right thing. Okay, I did. There we go. Hey, Dana. Thank you. Welcome, welcome, y'all. Welcome, welcome. You can hear me, or you can't hear me. Oh, nods head. Okay. That's Panda. Hopefully, you guys can hear the music. That's not too loud. Ah, perfect. Okay. Hey, JB. Welcome, welcome, y'all. Hey, Tanya. Thank you. There should be music coming through. Maybe a little. It may be a little low on your end. They're coming out here. Oh, hey, Adam. Hear the music as well. Okay. Thank you, JB. Audio on. Okay. So I figured while we were doing some of these questions, I would go through some of the maps just to kind of give you guys a look here, kind of go through some of the maps, and also just kind of see all of my chaos of how they're all collected. But yeah, thanks for coming, everyone. Typically I have like a whole bunch of folders and stuff. Hey, Becky, thank you. And then I try to put like the landing page, NPCs, the guild, copy of the world, and so we're making it. Which, yeah, I'm so surprised we got to actually explore as much of this, but let me choose a place for us to go to in Albion. How about Turtle Rock? I don't remember the last time we were there. Was it literally? No, it wasn't. Okay. There's the turtles. There they are. I have to step away from family dinners to stop having fun while I'm gone. Enjoy. You can always come back and view later. But that's funny. Okay. So we'll stay on the turtles for now. Water. Yep, more water. That literally first mission we came across the water. So we'll start with our Q&A. Starting from the top of our question thread, those turtles. That map started a whole journey. I know, right? So crazy. First question is, what did we miss in Marco's museum? I think if you guys had a chance to really explore every inch of Marco's museum, I think you would have found more tangible connections between him and some of the other corporations that showed that, like, obviously we know he didn't have, you know, Canberry's interests at heart all the time. But I think things that showed that he was in, you know, deeper bedfellows than he might have liked to have led on. Okay, works fine on my phone, just not on my laptop. Oh, that's interesting. I don't know why that would be. Ebon Dar and the people of the Keringas, they went into the Shadow Realm, and I imagine they would become people like the Shadar Kai. But yeah, I didn't think there was really much chance of like that connection being really found and followed through. So, but yeah, it's just super low for me, but voice is great. That might be because of how I have audio set to come through. This might be a little bit better, but I usually try to keep it lower than so again, I'm going through the questions in the Discord. If you guys have more questions, you can add them to the list. I think what surprised me most about campaign 2 was just really how much you guys really wanted to get done. There's Muku hiding in the corner over here for you guys. Um, you know, which I think is just like commendable for you all. But I think like I expected more for you guys to feel more like, okay, let's just take care of Albion and not worry about like other planets and other things. But I think right from the start, you guys, once you guys had the ability to travel across like the verse to other, you guys were immediately like, let's go to Atilian, let's go over here, let's go over here. And that was the part where I was like, whoa, okay. Yeah, let's see where we go. That was always fun. Oh, that's cool. Never know what these maps are gonna have here. What state I left them in. But yeah, a lot of the older maps. This is where we first met. Where we first met Lord Talvik. Next question is, what was up with the obelisk on Cesenchosis? I think it was an ancient way. The world was planned. The idea that like there would be a place where these Avia Ra were worshiping these Egyptian gods, and the fact that like it's kind of like, you know, what are the chances that that would spontaneously happen across 2 different places across the entire verse? It's like very unlikely. So the fact that that was happening implied that there might be some connection that the Avia Ra had with these Egyptian gods, and the people you know, might be able to make that connection with the obelisks. So yeah, you told me I limit myself and don't think big enough, so I made an effort to think big and not limit myself. That is also when we rescue Throry. That's true, that's true. Some of that might be my own fault, but victim of my own success. Oh, thanks for the subs, y'all. I just realized. I think I had turned those alerts off because they were also super loud for me. Okay, what was with the giant eyes we were seeing on maps? So primarily in some of the areas, like in underground, when the where the people were doing the experiments, a lot of what they were doing was trying to make like to replicate these connections. And I kind of viewed that as either the outsider or like other beings, like simply, I guess you could call it, I guess like from Full Metal Alchemist, like the truth. Beings out in the verse, I guess, kind of like are like above, like higher dimensionals, who are watching and looking and observing and seeing like, okay, what is happening here? Like messing with forces that are like well beyond your means. So yeah, those eyes kind of were that, either that or like actual like I guess technically outsiders, beings who were kind of peering in. The next question is, what was Elris 2 up to behind the scenes? So the experimenters made the eyes. No, so the eyes showed up because the experimenters were messing with things. It's kind of like a byproduct. Like they were trying to mess with you know, the fabric of the universe, and as a byproduct, like these eyes would appear. As basically as like, you know, space became thinner. But yeah. In terms of Elris 2, well, it's not that you had to deal with them. That wasn't like necessarily your guys' deal. It was more like they were, you know, opening doors and things that they didn't know what was beyond. Elris 2 essentially was an Elris who had gone through what our Elris went through, who had you know, maybe lost Celeste a bit earlier, and after the events of Paradise, had basically said like, okay, no, I can't do this. Actually, like I I need to find a way to undo things or go back. I need a rewind. But like I kind of mentioned, you can't really go back and change your own time. You can go back and kind of change a branching time, but it would never be your time again unless you just kind of lived in that timeline. So in her own way, she kind of hoped that she could get here earlier. Wasn't very successful. So she was trying to find the door again, so she could get there. But either because of Eileen or because of the Shadow King, she was having a difficult time doing so. But yeah. Adam asks, anything that surprised you about a space sci-fi setting as we spent more time in it? Was the attraction originally to the dark matter stuff that happens to be set in space, or to a space setting and then you found dark matter? What surprised me about a space sci-fi setting is kind of how big scale is. How the amount of times I think I have mentioned like the universe is large. But really, like at times, like thinking about like you guys traveling off into space and the willingness you guys had to put yourselves in situations where it was like, hey, you might be stranded out here in another part of the galaxy that you have no idea how to get home. That surprised me a lot. But in terms of what the attraction was, when Spelljammer came out, I wanted to run a Spelljammer campaign, and I was like, cool. You know, I'd seen some old Spelljammer stuff. It should be fun. I was very disappointed, and I immediately was like, okay, I need other stuff to supplement this campaign I'm going to run because this is not going to be enough. So I started looking around, and I found like Stars Beyond Number or Without Number, and I had found Dark Matter, and I immediately loved Dark Matter. I was like, yes, this seems so cool. This is exactly what I want. I want that feeling like ships are big and powerful, and that like if you are out there and a TIE fighter like hits you directly with its blaster, like you're dead, you're eviscerated, you know. Like I like that feel of having space be dangerous, space be something that like can kill you. And I wanted also to kind of have positions on the ships be a little bit important, like, you know, who was the captain and, you know, things like that. And Dark Matter kind of fit that. So I tried combining both of them together. It didn't really work too well, at least not in my opinion, but it was kind of a test run for that. So when we came to I was choosing the settings for this next campaign, I kind of thought about Dark Matter again. And I think what I thought about most was not the sci-fi setting, but it was that song. I think I mentioned it before. The Outer World song. We work to earn the right to work. To earn the right to work. I think that song stuck with me a lot. I think obviously, you know, very strong anti-capitalist, you know, messaging and themes in this campaign. No surprise there, but I think that song really made me think about like who would be desperate enough to like hop in a spaceship and go fight space sharks. Who would be desperate enough to take these jobs and go out in search of a black hole? And my primary thought was like, okay, well, I know a lot of people who joined the military because of the education bill, the GI Bill, or because they were like, I just need stability, man. I just need something, you know, that's gonna work. And I thought that was like, okay, that could be a good driving force for like spacers who are coming together, who all are like, hey, we're all from this kind of like, you know, run down town. We're all kind of stuck here together, and pressure makes diamonds. So that was my thought. And then I thought about Dark Matter after that, and I was like, oh, Dark Matter would work really well with that kind of setting. And then the more and more I thought about it, the more and more I thought about the ease of transitioning. I think I mentioned this before. It really bothers me when we would do missions, and I'd be like, okay, well, technically, this boat ride should take you 3 weeks there and 3 weeks back. But yeah, you get there immediately. Okay, and once you got teleporting, then it was a lot easier. with space, it's a lot easier for us to be like, okay, you got this dark matter jump, you can jump, good, you go, you guys get there. Okay, great. It made it so much easier to be like, yeah, you want to go to this other part of the planet? Yeah, you hop in your ship, you get in the shuttle, you go over to the other side. And I love that aspect for me, narratively, even though it's a very petty thing. Adam also asks about Sehanine, the goddess of dreams. Did you have any plans or ideas for dreams to be a bigger feature of this campaign? I actually did, yes. I know Gunther became I know Gunther had like a relationship with Sehanine, but it was kind of like a antagonistic one, so we didn't really get to explore it that much. But much in the same way how I think like if we didn't have like such prominent bards and such like immediate stuff with like the Shadow Realm, I'm not sure you guys would have like really explored it as much as you did if it wasn't like very obvious right away. I think even so there were certain things where like with Ryan, with like the fairy tale and that connection with Cat and stuff like that, where it's like sometimes you just don't pick those quests and it's like, okay, cool. But with Sehanine, yeah, I had a whole thing about dreams in a lot of ways, like connecting. I had an idea of like these metaphysical kind of places, sort of like how the depths of the Shadow Realm are like the subconscious. Like the dream world is also the subconscious as well. I do think there was a mission where you guys did go into the dream world, but I might be wrong. But yeah, those were my thoughts about Sehanine, which would have been fun to explore. Let's see some of the Shores of Darkness. Oh, this was a cool one. We can go back to this one for a bit here. Dragon. Ty asks, what's been some of my favorite quest lines to run? In terms of quest lines, I have there's a lot of favorites I have, honestly. There's something really cool about the the Yautja, the predators, kind of having them along there. Oh, this music's a little too sleepy for right now. Oof. Okay, let's put something. Oh, let's put the Gestural Village. I like that a lot. Here we go. Oh, by the way, if you can see it here on the side, I don't know if I'll make it bigger here. This is how my music works. This is my jukebox over here. Obviously, it's usually much smaller, but I have everything split up into folders. So it's like my Abrax's Final Battle here, Final Forms. So when we're being sneaky, I have options of sneaky music, and then it's scary. Obviously, I have a lot more scary music than I do sneaky. You can tell that you guys aren't very sneaky very often, so I don't need that as much. But yeah, that's kind of how that all works there. Come on, mouse. There we go. Work with me. Okay, so some of my favorite quest lines, though, I think I've loved the ones that had you interacting with the what's they're called? Not the bastards. That's not their names. Now I'm forgetting what they were already. Oh man, sneaky becomes scary a lot. Yeah, that's true. The B brawlers, the budget brawlers. Yes, I think the budget brawlers. Kind of quest lines, interacting with them, seeing you guys conflict, the hatred that Ori had for them. I think that's one of my favorite parts. No, wait, but there's also all the Gallia stuff. There's just too many to name, really. I've loved like all of them. As cheap as that is to say, I do feel like, yeah. In terms of which boss or major antagonist I enjoy playing the most, it's gotta be Muku. Muku, so fun. Muku smart. Muku best. Muku strongest. Just so fun to be able to, for once, turn off my brain and just be like a very simple person who's like, I just want to fight and punch things and be strong. Loss is part of the job. They hated her, yeah. Muku was a lot of fun. I also loved being Lord Talvik in the beginning. That relationship between him and his brother, Um, like him and Fina, how much he mistrusted Fina, and with good reason. She was the heiress after all. And like, the ways he saw the world. It was I liked it a lot. I didn't expect it to like, I don't know, hit so hard, but like or like to like be so. I feel like it was complex at times. Like there was back and forth with Rin and him. They didn't just like be like, brother, we see eye to eye. It was like, okay, we both have to like try to convince each other of how we're gonna move forward. So I like that story. I like that villain a lot. He had a lot of complexity to him as an antagonist. So that was cool. Let me actually go see. This isn't all the NPCs. This is just the ones that I remember to like put over here and keep track of that I needed like the most. Oh, Real Driss, rest in peace, was a blast. Sorry if it's so bright, but oh, Dolgo was a lot of fun too. Dolgo was just like such a little shit. I don't know. I guess there's a lot of antagonists I like being. I guess I like being antagonist, or just like being able to have like these characters. Some of them who are complex, some of them who aren't, but who otherwise have like a desire to see their things accomplished. A lot of villains have like hero complex, not hero complex, and I want. They have a drive. Fina would have found a way to get the drawing of Changeling to Talvik. Oh my god. Okay, next question is favorite Mage Hand Press magic items. The hoverboard is my favorite Mage Hand Press item. I've always tried to like think of how I can tweak it to make it better. It works just fine the way it is, but I just love the idea of like just a radical teen who comes on their hoverboard like Back to the Future, kind of swerving around the hallway. I would immediately fall off of it and break my neck, but I do love the idea of it though. So, and if I had to play a PC, who would it be? That is tough because there's a lot of really great PCs. I don't know. It's really hard because there's some that I like for different reasons, but I'm not sure if I would want to play as them, like Nero. I love Nero. I've always wanted to play a wild magic sorcerer, but I do feel like keeping Nero's energy up and like his like just the act of being Nero, it just seems exhausting. So I don't know how long I can keep that up for. Yeah, maybe Elris. I think it would be cool. No. Yeah, I was about to say Marco. That's not right either. Mitz is a Pokemon master. That would also be cool. I think Eli because he's in such an interesting position where it's like maybe as Eli I could like be like, okay guys, let's go on a mission to like, let's go to our local branch of government, and then during that mission Eli like uses modify memory, and then like starts messing with like the government there, does a hostile takeover, gives himself the executive branch, becomes galactic president of Albion. It'd be one of those things where it's like Lou lends me his character for the weekend and he comes back and he's like, what did you do? And I'm like, oh, congratulations, you're president now. I think that would be funny. Does Hera age normally? Yes, she does. I will not elaborate on that further. Would Eris have really killed Oz and the party if he had not rolled so well on his persuasion check? Yes, 100%. That's it. She just really would have done it. She really needed to be convinced. Ori is still riding the Wish Dragon. She didn't make it back to the RAQ. Oh. Old Fawn, Fina over here. Gerald. Okay, the next question was, during Fina's ascension, Dana had to roll a persuasion check. If that had failed, what would Fina have turned to instead of the goddess of schemes and strategies? So when you were starting to be getting your ascension, there's a lot of power that is suddenly being drawn into one person. You already had a piece of that as you're starting to tap into the unrelenting power of the void. But ascension into a godhood is a whole different thing. And that can really pull out and draw out different things in you, draw out base emotions. So there was a chance that you wouldn't become the goddess of schemes and strategies. There was the chance that you would become the goddess of suffering and what was the other one? Suffering and sorrow. That, you know, the bad stuff that you had gone through would make you instead become a goddess of that kind instead. Or if you had rolled in between, that you wouldn't have had a choice. You might have become the goddess of schemes and sorrows, or the goddess of schemes and suffering, which definitely would have changed the flavor of god you became. So, you know, that would have been its own whole thing. Next question was, what happened to Zelda? So I imagine that Zelda would have found herself amongst the many armies of the undead of Orcus. She's currently serving as one of his lieutenants and will hopefully earn her way up the ranks, you know, some greater demon form. Later on in the future, if you guys have to fight like a powerful demon of undeath or something, it's probably her. But yeah. Was I disappointed it took you so long to figure out Agnarak was the demon kissed planet? I did think that when you found a planet where they spoke Koringan and you didn't include that among the planets of Koringan planets that you knew of, I did find that strange. But I don't think I was disappointed. I think I was just like, well, that'll sit in the background for now. What quest lines did you think we would explore but didn't? Conversely, what quest lines did you think would be not as big of a deal as they ended up being? That's a good question. Let's go to space. Let's go to the freelancer. This is when we had 2 ships, I think, for some reason. Oh, what's happening here? I think some of the quest lines that I thought you guys would explore were some of the ones with the Citadel a bit more. Just just like some of the stuff that was happening there. I think most of the time Citadel missions were like, I think you guys were more like, yeah, we'll do stuff around there, like if it's necessary, but like otherwise we're going shopping and we're looking for the things we're looking for. And in terms of what quest lines that I think would be not as big of a deal as they ended up being, I think that when it came to some of the Bulbic quests, I again, you know, there was a lot of back and forth on this. I think there were just so many times where the party was fully gonna try to kill him that I just didn't think that like you guys would end up getting close enough with him to like learn about this other stuff in the past, to like learn about secrets, to even like learn about him. And obviously a lot of that has to do with Fawn choosing to be a character or play a character related to him. Well, I guess, did you choose to do that, or did I choose that for you? I'm trying to think now. I think it was something that we had like alluded to, but we hadn't like defined and said like this is what it was. Yeah, not sure. Where was this? Oh, there's Rin and Nero and Nock over there fighting some demons, having a picnic. No, not fighting demons, just talking to demons. Okay. Anywho, what happens with the Zodiacs and the upper planes now? And what is Prince Talcid up to? I can't reveal what Prince Talcid is up to, as he may come up again. In terms of what happened with the Zodiacs and the upper planes, I think there's like a power vacuum, and I think a great kind of betrayal. I'm not sure if Fina would the heiress would get the opportunity to try to take out one of the other gods, because I think instead of like once their alliance started to break down, it quickly became a scramble to secure as much power as possible and then kind of hole up with each other. But because of that, the upper planes are now kind of in a more balanced state, where there's more gods with more ability to kind of perceive what's going on around the area. So, let's see. Let me read the chat here. You chose the patron. She decided to keep him. Ah, yes. That's right. You did choose to keep him. Well, specifically because Mount out with the demon to learn Kuringen. Yes, that's right. And Zelda is living her best life. She gets to kill people every day, raise them as undead. Becky asks, what was the full deal with Marla, Dimia, and Asher? For those who may not recall, this was the wine owner's shop. Unfortunately, they were victims of a scam, essentially. The new husband essentially was like, they were running it's sort of like a Sopranos episode of this, like this. It's like if you have a friend and you're like, oh yeah, I'm going out tonight and we're going out to a party, and you know your friend has a gambling problem, and you're like, yeah, we're gonna maybe play some cards. And he's like, oh, you're gonna play cards? Anything on the line? And you're like, oh no, but you can't bet in this, man. It would be too bad for you. And then your friend's like, yeah, no, come on. Like, this basically the wife was like convinced over time, like, yeah, your husband, he's not treating you right. You need to be with me instead. Do this instead. And eventually, I guess she got honeypotted. But yeah, ended up having to make a deal with the Cabal that would end up leading to the business being given to them. Because, yeah, that's pretty much it. Let's see. Next question is, what would the alternate Ori that Ori saw in Shadow Canberry with Marco have told her? One of my regrets is not talking to her. A rookie mistake. She pretty much would have told you to try to be more open and honest with what you wanted. Pretty much at that point would have tried to tell you, like, you know, you've got unresolved stuff with your dad, you should probably go find him. But maybe could have been friends. Dana asks, what was up with Madame Salvor and why did she and Boren not get along? Madame Salvora is an old witch. She's very powerful. She could see the future. She could see the past. She could speak to the dead and raise them up. She could even summon beings from other worlds. And she is also Boren's sister. So that is why they don't get along, because they're siblings. So that's that. So in terms of Cease and Chosis, I kind of touched on that earlier. The Solar Citadel would still be monitoring them, but they're mainly preoccupied with the door stuff in their Citadel, and kind of a question of like faith and what is happening. Who is the real source of power? But Cease and Chosis is fine. John asks, do I see any of these PCs showing up as NPCs in the next campaign? And yeah, I totally do. I can safely say at this point that the campaign is the Rhapsody campaign takes place about 20 to 30 years after the events of our campaign here. So the traveling music. Oh, I love Whiterun. Still one of my favorite songs. So good. But yeah, it may not be for some time, and it depends on where the characters do. Like for example, I've made references to in Taizu there being a Taizu empire in the Rhapsody campaign, and that is because Jin during this time, Grant, again, keep in mind Jet is a Vect, he doesn't age, so they've had like an immortal leader essentially this whole time, and Jin has decided that, like, you know, we tried being a free territory, we tried leaving Taizu as its own space. No, this is now the Taizu Empire. We are gonna seize our own stuff, we're gonna take back from the dwarves, and that's kind of the conflict that's having there. So you guys may end up meeting Jet in the future if you guys interact with them. So it's kind of things like that where it's like, it really depends on what you guys do. I am hoping to get the Rhapsody people to the Citadel at some point as well, so it would be fun to go through the vault there, see what comes up. And maybe a goddess or two appearing, who knows. Maybe someone tries to get into the Shadow Realm and they shouldn't. Well, sure, but siblings do get along. I was curious if there was a specific reason why they hate each other. I imagine an old man and the sea wren. Yeah, they're just really old. Like they're just both very, very old, and it's like at this point they just like can't stand the sight of each other anymore. You know, Boren's also a big pervert. I'm pretty sure like Elris and Fina had to like electroshock therapy him in order to prevent him from perving on people all the time. But yeah, I remember this one. It's good, man. This is when you guys were running to the ships. I think so. This might just be a map I just had. Oh yeah, your ships are here. Okay. Next question is, what was the biggest thing that we changed from your original plan expectations? I don't really think there was too much that changed from my original plans. At least not like that drastically. There's always a little bit of like in the start, you start off and you're kind of pushing things along in a direction. But once we get to like the middle of the journey, I really have no idea where we're going or what's gonna happen or where we're gonna lead. And I kind of like it that way. I don't know what's gonna come, and that keeps it interesting for me because that makes it for me something that's like, yeah, I don't know what's gonna happen either. This is exciting. This is great. But I don't think there was anything that like really changed from my original expectations, except no, I do think there was one thing, which was early on almost everybody rolled up an evil character, and I was like, okay, that's interesting. I guess we're gonna do a really evil leaning campaign here. All right. But then that changed very quickly too. So loss of him losing his memory, all the way to the HR speeches Fina gave him. Oh yeah, all the secrets. Which NPC became much more important than you originally expected? Okay, I gotta look at the NPCs. Season. I love. Okay, so it's no secret that I love Marco. But I think I love how much. Oh, I don't know who put this there, but thank you. So cute. I think I love how much Marco like started out as just like a criminal guy own a museum, then like becomes mayor, then like kind of stumbles upwards, becomes like, you know, prime minister. There's that like back and forth relationship between you guys where it's like, we want to kill him, but we kind of need to use him, and it's like, we want to kill him again. And he ended up becoming prime minister, which I did not expect that. Actually, I expected fully for like either Oz or somebody to kill him like month 3 or at the latest. So that was probably one of the biggest changes. Oh yeah, JP, you missed all the secrets. You played 2 evil characters. Is Zelda successful at returning Jeb Jeb to his undead state? No, a contract is had to return Jeb Jeb back from his undead state. Was there anything that we completely missed? I don't think so. In terms of secrets or reveals that were hard for me not to spoil, the Fina one was hard not to spoil. Fina being the heiress, I felt like there was a lot of times where it was like, is she the heiress? Is she not the heiress? I don't know. The Elris stuff with the iron doors, it was just very funny the amount of times you guys would say iron doors but you wouldn't go and do them. Or that it was never put together, like where that came from. I just love that aspect. So those were pretty tough not to spoil. The stuff with the gods, I think it took you guys some time when you guys were like first learning about like the gods and the other planes, when you guys were like, these gods are keeping you kept here, and they're like, what? No, they're not. We're just hanging out here, man. And like when you guys finally realized like, oh, the gods have actually just been keeping off like a walled off garden for themselves. That was a big secret, that like, because I knew that would change how you guys viewed everything about what you thought was possible, what you could do. I was convinced she was not the heiress even after she was murdered. Yeah, so the stuff with the gods, I was like, there were always like little hints to it, like especially if players would play as clerics, or they'd play as like there really weren't many clerics, but players who would play as classes that had to do with like the gods or other beings, like, you know, their stuff would still work. So I wasn't sure if anybody would ever question like, hey, how come this person says they're a god or whatever and it still works? But then again, it's D&D, so you know. A lot of our first character stories ended before the campaign did. Did this impact your plans for the battle one way or another? Not really. I kind of already had a plan right from early on in the campaign. When I thought about the themes of what we were going to be doing, I kind of had a plan for how I thought the final battle was going to look, and I just had to kind of figure out how I was going to make that happen. My main thing, I think, I kind of in the last campaign we had like, you know, characters who were level 20 and then characters who were like level like 13, and there was like, you know, when it came for the final most dangerous mission, obviously you're going to send in the team that's the strongest. But I wanted to create a scenario where every person in the guild could contribute, and a scenario where one of the powers the guild has is being so numerous, having so many different people of so many different skills. So I wanted to really exemplify that and have it be that everybody could still participate. So that was one of my goals when I started the campaign. And so I think I can't really remember when it happened. I forgot what it was. I think the first time when Fina, her character, like left, where we were like, oh, we're gonna lose like our strongest cleric, and that at that point I was like, it would be very funny if like everyone's like, you know, these primary characters or first characters, you know, or our strongest characters were gone. So then I did start colluding to do that. So because I did find it amusing for myself, but also because I thought that it was kind of a different kind of stakes, right? Like you have these scenarios, these battles that are happening with like the gods and some of these characters who feel this responsibility to trying to change the entire universe. Their worries are on things beyond just what one planet can do. And so when that happens, I kind of imagine like, well, the people who are still here are still going to fight just as hard to defend this planet. So I kind of like the idea that, like, yeah, it might be our quote unquote second string characters, or our characters who don't play as much, or our characters who are newer to the campaign who end up having to save this planet. Because, like, yeah, is Eris still out there, doing her stuff, whether Alvion's destroyed or not? Yes. Is you know, Elris still doing her thing, whether or not Alvion's destroyed or conquered by Avarax? Sure. And it's like Nock would still have his planet someplace else, whether Albion was hurt or not. But I like the idea that these characters would come together here and have to defend their home against such. I know, right? Nero second string, he's first string all the way for sure. So yeah. Were there any character arcs you expected to go one way, but were surprised with how they turned out? Starks, I think I was surprised with a lot, because I wasn't sure how far he was gonna go with going with the N virus. When I messaged him and told him, like, you've been infected, you're starting to show signs of the N virus. Do you wish to hide this, or do you wish to, like, show this or whatever? And he was like, I'm going to study it. And I was like, okay, that's interesting. But you're not going to do anything to cure it? And he's like, no, I'm going to see what happens. And I was like, okay, you would know that there's a potential this could go bad. And like that, right off the bat, like, just took me so off guard. Let's see. Anyone else surprised me how they turned out? I don't think necessarily surprised. Maybe I think with Terra, because she started out with her witch kind of half there. I thought there was maybe a potential like that she could have been corrupted and maybe gone full witch and been a cackling witch bird lady. Thought that would have been cool. I've mentioned this before, but there are certain characters, there's redemption arcs, and there's like all sorts of different paths different characters take. But a lot of characters, especially like stern ones, often have like a flat arc. Characters like Superman, like Luffy, who in a lot of ways it's a measure of whether or not their values will stand against the world. The world will try to convince them otherwise. And she was supposed to be corrupted, but she resisted. She decided otherwise. I don't know. But yeah, these characters who get tested, and it's like, are you going to change? Are you going to still stick to your values, or are you only going to do them when it's easy? And these characters choose time and time again, like, yeah, I will do the thing that I need to do, the hard choice. She was too lawful good for you. That is funny. She was very lawful good. I know it's a challenge sometimes. Ryan says, was there a path to have placed Thori on the Dwarven throne had we pursued it? Oh wait, there was one more question I missed, but I'll answer that one first. Yes, I think if it had been pressed more, maybe Athena had stayed, no pressure of Dana there, but if I think like some of the party members had pushed Thori earlier on to kind of more embrace his like lineage, because it's been known for a while that Thori was like a king, but it's kind of always accepted that he was just going to be, kind of a punk for his life. And I think like if earlier on, Thori came about because I had always wanted to do a surprise princess kind of quest, where it's like, you meet like somebody in a town or a tavern, and then you're like, oh, who's this person? And it's like, I'm just like, whatever, I'm just a dude, the Princess and the Pauper type of deal, right? Like Princess Jasmine leaving the castle to go and explore the town. And I'd never really done that before, and I thought with the dwarves and stuff, that would make the perfect opportunity to do that, because I had already cooked up like the kind of family drama there. So there was always a potential it could go that way, but I think there was always more of a preference for putting what Thori wanted above him trying to make him be a king again. So that's kind of what was going on with Rory. Tara did not accept it, but wanted him to make the choice and needed him to be mature first. Tara was Nero's favorite character. He did love the Tara Nero contrast. That was the only time I regretted having Fina ascend. Oh. Yeah. But, you know, what could have been, would have been. Never know. That's kind of the beauty. We just know what is. And we can kind of daydream and think about maybe scenes and things between. Oh man. Oh. The heck is this thing? Or the bore holder. Ha! The bore holder. That's a good one. Sometimes I crack myself up. I remember this mission. Wow. Long time ago. Unit found a mask that made undead want to kill him and sat on a throne and had a vision. Was there a quest line there that we lost the thread on? No, there were certain people, certain characters that the outsider had an interest in. And Unit was one of them. It was not the mask that had the thing to do with it. It was the throne itself. And that throne had a connection to the outsider. So you could have been potentially marked like Eli and Jan were. And really just being marked just meant that you were somebody the outsider took an interest in. It's kind of like them seeing you as like, oh, you are potentially fated to do something big. I want to follow you and see what it is you do. See what becomes of you. And so it's kind of why he was like, really just like, yeah, he's just like interested in things. And that's why some people didn't really know what to make of him. What was the deal with the Voidco vanishing spot? That was hilarious. I think you're talking about the vision thing, the space thing that you would hop into the closet to have a vision of. Essentially Voidco, that was kind of early signs that Voidco was doing experiments that were extremely dangerous and messing with the fabric of space and time entirely. If like, for I don't know, you guys had like threatened the people to kill them or something if they didn't like shut the place down or to reveal to you what was happening or something, you know, they would have probably told you guys, like revealed some of the technology to you and show you how they were doing this stuff. But yeah. I sort of imagine that that Marco wanted the mace of Orcus because he was going to give it to somebody so that he could kind of give it to one of his peons, have them try to use it, test it out, see what power it had, and see if he could really just see if he could use it for something. If he could, then he couldn't, then he could at least sell it for like a pretty hefty amount, you know? So let's go to High Terra. And there, hold on. Were there other artifacts at Marco's museums you had quests for that we didn't tap into? I don't think any that I had quests for now. What's going on over here? George? Man. Okay. Let's see. Yes, Vision Closet. Yeah, definitely they were going to get you guys killed by testing like these faulty products on you guys. It's like when you look at some of the products from like the 50s and it's like, here's these compact mirrors and these new powder kits, and you're like, yeah, that's all irradiated. There's uranium or something inside of all of that. You should not be putting that on your body. And it's like they're doing like that kind of testing on like their customers, where it's like, what happens if we transport our customers like on the brink of a black hole or something? And it's like, I don't know, what if we only send half their molecules there? So that kind of deal. The story with the eyes and the Citadel, that's kind of one of the quest lines I wasn't sure you guys are going to follow up on, but basically there was a criminal element that was kind of infiltrating the Citadel, and its leader basically was making like a surveillance state with all of the eyes on the Citadel. And so that's how they kind of were utilizing information more than anything else. If you guys had like gone further into trying to kind of find more about that group, you would have learned how like it seemed like uncanny how they always knew like where everything was, all the shipments of what was going to happen. It seemed like preternatural. I did have a quest for the gnomish homeworld if you guys use Valerie's map, but I will not reveal it. Might use it in the future. Cat had failed charisma saves as we left the invisible planet, where they were granted the visions of the zodiac gods coming into being. What was the result? If you had succeeded on that failure, you would have been able to essentially use your force. If you had succeeded on that charisma save, you would have been able to use your force of will pretty much to try to pull yourself more into that vision so that you could get a clearer answers as to what was going on there. Kind of like forcing yourself into somebody else's dream. But yeah, Fina would have stopped doing it if Oz hadn't stopped her. We are going to visit the gnomish homeworld, guys. Mission 243. Cat picked up the the 40th Clover bracelet. It basically was like an advanced version of like the Leaf Blade. It was a bloodthirsty blade, which is why like it doesn't seem evil, but it doesn't know when to stop. And that is because like once it starts drawing blood, it has a hard time stopping. It is a blade that it's like if you draw it, you must draw blood. Once you turn it there, then it's like, yeah, no bueno. Had we caught the other Elris at Iron Chella, what would we have learned? What version of Elris was she? So I covered that a little bit earlier on. She was an Elris who kind of already felt like she failed in life and needed an undo and came to this world. But unfortunately, she wasn't able to get to the Iron Door in this world. And so she kind of was stuck, almost being forced to wait until this Elris decided to go to see if she could hop back in again and try again. It's unclear what she may decide to do now that she knows that, you know, this Elris decided to do something different. Maybe that'll give her new options or ideas. And Devere said that the Lady of the Lake had given one more sword. Excalibur, Dustbringer. What was the other sword and who had she given it to? I can tell you what the other sword is. It is Muramasa, the cursed katana, but I cannot tell you who she gave it to. So, that's our... Oops, Cat sent Val back to the homeworld. No map now. Mark had a lot of schemes. Some made appearances like One Fleet. Were there others that could have shown up or that you wish could have shown up in one form or another? No, Mark had a lot of schemes, but most of them had to do with like setting things up for the RAQ. The One Fleet, I think, was the big scheme of all, which was, you know, I think stemmed from the belief that like you guys may be of different backgrounds and whatnot and beliefs, but against all of these forces in the world, you need something more than just people kind of standing around together. You need a coalition. You need people who are willing to show up for each other, to fight for each other. And he believed that the One Fleet would be that thing. So a lot of his schemes had to do with that. And schemes, I guess, for your characters, like, you know, I think like if he had played with Neil, he would have told me to give Neil a box of Vorpal swords. So it was always like those kinds of schemes too, where he'd be like, oh, okay, I think I got this idea for something for Eli where you could do this and this and get him this thing and stuff like that. But yeah. Let's see. All schemes are one scheme. Oh, Sigmunds. Mm-hmm. Okay, let's see. Next question is, we all know that Tyr, its past version anyways, exists in the verse. Was this always your intention, or was this a connection you created later in the campaign? This was something I had thought about I think I mentioned this in the last campaign's Q&A, but I really felt like you guys answered like or solved like all the riddles and questions, and you guys like, or at least most of them, and like you had a good timeline of what happened. I felt like from there, the story, while there might be certain directions we could go, the future I felt like was written pretty well in stone. I could clearly see the next 100 years or so. And so it didn't really feel like playing in that world there would be interesting. I also knew that the rest of that planet was already kind of destroyed due to previous conflicts, so we couldn't really explore there either. And I'm not the type of person to retcon things like that or like explore something if I don't feel like there's something left to explore. So um or I think very early on someone had asked like, hey, in you know, there was the ship that you guys found in Tier. Is that ship out there? And I was like, maybe it is out there. And I think at that point I was like, yeah, maybe it is out there, but not how you think. And that's when I was like, kind of like figured out the puzzle for me of like, okay, if we can explore the past of Tier, that gives us the whole planet to explore. It gives us the futuristic setting. It allows us to have that kind of asymmetrical storytelling of like these species like dragons and giants and things. And it's like, yeah, how did the first ones beat the ancient dragons? And it's like, well, they had ships, they had mechas, they had laser pistols, they had plasma rifles. And so it became very clear to me like back then of like, okay, that is how I can do it. I didn't quite want to reveal that because again, I didn't want you guys to get stuck on thinking of like, well, we got to find that planet then. Which, you know, immediately upon you guys finding it, you guys were like, we got to find these coordinates down, write them down. So I feel like I was right in that instinct. What were all the themes, the secret themes I mentioned? So I did mention, you know, in the primer I put themes down. I think it's important to have like just an understanding of what you've got going on. But I think there were certain other things that I wanted to keep in mind too. One of them was mentors and mentees. Just the idea that different people would have different relationships with others, and it didn't necessarily need to be a relationship where it was like you were training with somebody. Like Jin and Jet, where I think were mentor mentees of like, you know, Jet trying to learn from Jin about the verse, about a lot of stuff from Taizu. You know, there was Mr. T and Roy, there was Elris and Eileen, Griff and Mitch, Celine and Madame Silvora, Stark and the N virus that he was trying to learn from, Jan and Faldorn, but to another extent the whales, Eli, along with the outsider and the whales as well, Rin and Talvik in a way, Talvik being and his father's book kind of being his mentors, his guides towards his you know, his connections towards his people, towards his past, his history, and kind of connecting to his culture. And you know, Thori and Oz and the punks, and again, there's so many mentors and mentees. I think that was a big one that I wanted to kind of focus on. Old people, a lot of old people, you know, people like in their 40s and 50s. Just kidding. I think like a lot of themes of freedom kind of were I was circling around a lot. These were things that like I wasn't necessarily outright saying like these are going to be themes, guys, but when I would think about quests and I would think about adventures, there would just be so many times where I would think like, okay, I want to come back to that theme again. How do I tie this back together? You know, family drama is always like a consistent thing in D&D. But I think that one of my themes was redemption. Secret twins. Fina was the only one without a mentor. Fina was her own secret mentor. No, Fina was the mentor to the mentee. Oz didn't have a mentor. He was the mentor. Same with Fina. Fina had No, I'm gonna say the wrong name, not Flicker. Oh my god. It's all mixing together for me. Fina had her apprentice, who she was teaching. So mainly it was that idea that like there were people and like everyone's relationship to that. Um, the theme of Mira, yes, thank you. The theme of redemption, I think, the idea of like you guys, many of you, we started bad and evil, but also many of our characters had like just sort of made mistakes, done things they regretted, had past that they felt like they couldn't change, um, or had just in some ways had internal struggles and battles. In some ways, some of our characters became the things that they had to fight against, literally, like Ori and her shadow, Oz in his demon form, Dina and her, her other half, the heiress, Elris and Eileen to an extent, Rin and Talvek to an extent. A lot of your characters had these mirrors who were out there, who were sort of the beings who would kind of challenge your character's perceptions and your ideas, but also push back and see whether you even would think you were deserving of mercy, right? Like, could Rin accept his brother for the things he had to do in order to come this way, for him fighting against his friends and causing harm? And if he could forgive his brother, could he forgive his friends? Could he forgive Oz for his past, or Fina? So things like that were really like hammered home. Definitely old guys, like I mentioned. Really, I think a lot of old guys in this campaign. Let's see. Oh, the shadow stuff wasn't really a secret theme, but I did think it was very funny when you guys would lose your shadows, how many often it happened, but that wasn't one of the themes that occurred. But yeah, could Fina forgive Talvik? That was really the question. Ooh, yeah. Let's see, where was I think you guys found pretty much all of them. Is there a being trapped in the sun? I cannot answer that question. How close with Fina's battle? Unfortunately, Fina's battle with the Shadow King was not close. In his domain, it would have been very tough. By herself, her in a party, yeah, probably would have been impossible. But I have learned from experience that the more you tease others about being older, the more your knees will creak later. You have been warned. It wasn't necessarily that I was making fun of old people. I just think I don't know, maybe it's just like where I was in my life, but I just think I really wanted to have a bunch of fun old guys. I wanted to have some people who were like, especially just older in general. I think like, there's so many young heroes and young figures. And so I always just thought like it would be cool to see older people who either were in positions of power or knowledge, or who could turn to. Lou says, I always figured we hijacked season 1 into having a bigger focus on the Feywild than intended, so we had to balance things out with the Shadow Realm this time. No, I really think it was mainly the focus on like music and our bards, and again, just like you guys choosing to go down there. Because even then, as much as you guys went down into the Shadow Realm, you guys still never went into some of like the, I guess, quote unquote, like bureaucracy, right? The factions of who were down there in the Shadow Realm. But it really was your choice. I did find it funny, because yeah, it wasn't as intended for me, for the Feywild to have such a strong focus in the first campaign. But I did know when we started this one that I didn't want to have a focus on it. But I still knew I wanted to have some kind of, fantastical elements and things, which is where like storybook came from. Was the Gossamer Brink always part of the plan, the verse? It wasn't always a part of the plan. That was a random thing. I found it very funny because it was not something I'd ever planned really to happen. It's kind of one of those things that I write on the or I put in like the random encounter table, and I'm like, haha, that'll be funny if that ever happens. And then it happens, and then I'm like, oh man, I have to follow through on this now. And it's like you write yourself a check and you got to really cash it, you know? So that was one where I was like, okay, I guess we're gonna play a different game now, you know, and it was fun. I couldn't have, and that's one of those things where it's like there's been I saw like a recent TikTok where um Foreseen GM, I think his name is, or Foreseen, I forgot, Foreseen RPG. He was saying these rules of being a dungeon master that he has, and one of them is like embracing the chaos, embracing the randomness. And it's so true because like that's one time where if I had been like, oh, actually, it's not gonna work, or actually I'm gonna say like, you know, I'm not gonna put that thing. That's too hectic for me to do right now, or there's no way we could figure out how that's gonna work. Um, I instead was like, okay, what does it mean that they are gonna be trapped someplace else for this amount of time? Okay, let's go into that. But so many beautiful moments came from the Gossamer Brink, from that moment of randomness, of chance of the D100, that it's like, if you don't embrace those moments, then you really are tailoring things in a way. And I try as much as possible not to let the author in me like make too many hard choices for you guys, because I have certain sensibilities. There's things I like, I have preferences for, and that might come up a lot. This is already a Dragon Ball Z like hella anime ass like campaign, so it's like, you know, there's a limit. Weren't you guys on this map before? Oh yeah, there's Rin. Oh, there's is that Fawn's old form? Marco. This was the bidding war over here that we had. The Brink saved Fina. That session became one of my all-time favorites. Yeah, me too. Yeah, the Brink might have saved Fina, saved her from becoming for herself. What did happen to the world we live on that Nock was king on? That is probably the world that has like one of the highest chances of being returned to in the Rhapsody world. So I'm gonna keep that one there. Just because it is such a funny world to think of how it was left. Why did Sehanine curse Gunther? I think it was, if I'm not mistaken, it was sort of a Jonah and the whale situation, right? Where like Sehanine called onto him and was like, "You're gonna be my servant," and he was like, "No, I don't want to do that." And she was like, "I'm gonna curse you until you do." But I might be wrong. Next, on again. Did Marco cancel the contract? No, he did not. No, he did not. He would have done a lot of other things to appease you. Like he would have brought you in for a meeting, had a whole bunch of drinks and stuff and things for you, told you about like plans he has for the future and things like that, and really try to like wine and dine you. But I don't think he would have canceled the contract. Maybe if you know, you can't try to kill him. So that's the problem, is like you can't threaten to kill him. He knows you can't do that. So like, it's hard. But what was the deal with Nock's advisor, the chick with 2 different color eyes? She's basically the one who kind of pushes Nock to be more brutal. She kind of is the one who tells him like, yeah, you should be doing this, you know, wipe out these people, do XYZ. So she yeah, she wasn't really a great person. I love being able to completely change Fawn's appearance. Yeah, that was pretty cool. I did like that when I'd see a new Fawn out there. What would have happened if Nock beat Jubilex? Could he have revived Oogie? I know we spoke about wishing to resurrect him back to life, but I personally like when death has more weight. I think if you would have beat Jubilex and not eaten that thing of him that was left over, so like, you know, in a way, like Oogie was him, a new little thing would have been born, a new little ooze, and there would have been a chance for you to like maybe raise that thing as Oogie. But it also technically would have been the spawn of Jubilex and a host for him and whatnot. So like a Horcrux, he could have potentially come back. But yeah. Rin saw a vision of old man Rin staring down the sight of a rifle, looking at Fina. Was there story there? Oh yes. So that was a potential future where Fina, as the heiress, sort of like didn't become like an ascended god person, but instead became like basically like, if you guys are gonna keep us trapped in this garden here, I'm gonna become the most dangerous thing in this garden, and I'm gonna wipe everything else out. So then you can't have your garden. And so Rin pretty much being like, it's like an old man Logan situation, like it's been 20 years since Fina started her rule over the galaxy. Like, I've got to take her down. So that was a potential thing. I think it was mainly to put in like a doubt that like in you, and like, oh, like if future me would want to kill Fina, what does that say? Um, yeah, it's a good thing you ate the Horcrux, Knock. Um, but yeah, Ori was done with the Murdo Marco thing, but wasn't gonna tell him that. Oh my god, why did you bring Sane in there too? So funny. I just needed a token. It's fit perfectly. Was the evil voice in Nox's head Oogie? So that was like what I kind of mentioned. Like, it wasn't necessarily like Oogie. It was Jubilex talking to you through Oogie. So him kind of like basically taking over, possessing Oogie, and being like, "Hey, Nox." So, but it wasn't actually Oogie. Jubilex is just, unfortunately, and I know you want to give him and everybody the benefit of the doubt, but it's kind of like, while demons are demons and they can't help what they are, this guy, he worked his way up the chain to get here. He did the work. He's the CEO of evil. He's done the hours. He's done the community service. He has put in the work. So it's like he's a manipulator. That's kind of like how he does things, and that's why a lot of the other demons and other beings kind of shit talked him a lot, because they would always be like, "Yeah, this is a guy who." He won't just straight out ask you about this something. He will manipulate you, take something close to you, whisper in your ear at night about things, and then when you ask him about it, he'll be like, "What? No, dude, that wasn't me, man. That was something else. Yeah, it was weird. Okay, let's not talk about this anymore," and kind of leave it at that. Oh, the dog's going crazy out there. Um, but yeah. So let's see what else. Circling back to the final battle question, Merlin showing up ended up being critical. Was that a just in case solution or always planned? Um, I had always planned for your allies to show up to help you guys in some way or another. Um, in terms of the Merlin part showing up, I had kind of a random table to choose who would come up and when. So it wasn't a guarantee. There were chances for like others to pop up, which like some who came later could, like, you guys could potentially could have had like Throry there earlier. Um, for like the final battle here, it's like a whole side on the side where there's like just a bunch of people over here off to the side. Well, I did move them onto the field, but yeah, uh, everybody was here. There were the NPCs that were like just off to the side. There was also a chance that like Lucy could have came back. You chose to give Talvik a gun. You could have like not done that. He could have came back later. Um, but yeah, it was always my plan that like you guys did a lot of work to try to get allies, not just to fight against like coalition, but to fight against Avarax, to potentially be strong enough to battle him. So I wanted to make sure that these guys, like, they showed up, that your efforts were not in vain. But it necessarily didn't need to be Merlin who could have done that. I think like Jan probably could have sent like a million badgers to hold Avarax and his movement speed or something too. Um, but yeah, that was always just a background. We bought the throne at the auction. What the heck did it do? The bone throne? You guys buy the bone throne at the auction? Let's go back to Canito. Let's go back here. Back when we were at the Cerulean City Gym fighting Misty out here for Pokemon. Um, I do not recall a throne at the auction, unless it's the bone throne. Uh, but yeah, let's see. Haven't seen any chat. Back to King. I missed enough of the relevant quests. Who or what was the outsider in the end? I can tell you what you guys roughly know about the outsider, which is that he was a being who's very powerful and who sort of was outside of the dichotomy of, you know, good and evil gods, or celestials and demons and fiends. A being who wanted to watch. I think the closest thing to him would be like Ayatsu the Watcher from Marvel. But without a non-interference kind of deal. He kind of would push things in certain scales if he thought it would make it interesting. I think that's what you guys know about him so far. And that somehow his power was able to be used to have the Zodiac gods either rise to greater heights or secure the garden. What was the Stark outsider connection? They seem to have talked before and decided not to be involved. Or the outsider made Stark an offer. Yes, the outsider did make Stark an offer. I think at one point he also offered to take out the End virus from him too. Because, oh yeah, that's right. So Stark had a fiend arm. His arm was possessed by a fiend because it was literally the arm of a fiend, and he just put it onto himself. So he was getting like fiendishly corrupted, and then also End virus corrupted. So then the outsider, there was one point where Stark like went on the throne to talk to the outsider, and the outsider was kind of like, hey man, you got a lot of stuff going on. I can't give you my mark. You know, you're very interesting, but I can't give you my mark. And he was like, you got to figure all that stuff out. I could take out the virus for you, and if you want to take my mark. And Stark was like, nah, I'm good. I'm good. So yeah. Oh yeah, it was a bone throne. So bone thrones give you connections to the outsider. Water is good, Ember. Nero, get in the water. Get in the water, Nero. Nero with his fire Pokemon. How fitting. Can't believe this. Did Eris found Voidka? No, she did not, unfortunately. We had a chance to buy a subscription to a return to life service from Voidka. Would it have actually worked, or was that a scam? So you would have returned to life, but it would have been like the reincarnate thing, or you would have been like in a random body. It would have been like, hey, you're back. How would you rate your experience on a level of 1 to 1,000? What was your pain? And so, yeah, it would have technically worked, but I don't think it would have worked in how you thought it would have wanted it to work. Did Pi complete his training, or was it all a scam? You know, Pi, what is experience? You know, what is an internship if not a scam? But yeah, no, I do think Pi completed his training as a Necro Lord slime thing. But yeah, Jan never got to reincarnate anyone. John asks, why? I cannot answer this question. Are these themes that are going to weave into later adventures? Ideas so good they need to be used, not just revealed? All of the above, yes. Some of these things may come up because like the world of the verse is so big, and kind of like I mentioned before in the first campaign, I felt like we had explored Tyr pretty thoroughly, at least what was available of it. But for the verse, I feel like there's so much out there to explore, and I don't know where even like the Rhapsody campaign may end up leading us, because while some of the campaign may still focus on the events, I plan on that campaign, for example, the next time jump when we finish the next chapter, I plan on that being 1 year later. So when we do the next chapter after that, I plan on that being like 10 years later. I want to jump across like time with this planet and see the story told and the development of this place told over like, you know, close to a millennia. And so who knows if like during that time trade, you know, there was 100 years where trade was established between like Albion and the Citadel, because like how drift works or whatever, and we end up meeting one of these people that, you know, we have here in the past, or certain people like Prince what was it, Talcid? Yeah, I think that's it. You know, those characters have such influence and potential that like kind of can't reveal what may happen with them yet. But yeah. Eli was selling access to the clone spell, but we never had to use any of them officially. That's true. There was a mission where Corp was offering something similar. I think it was before you could do it. How many evil voices were there inside of Nox's head? Only a few. So we started with the planet scale, then space, now time. That's so true. Yeah. Yeah. I guess, you know, I'm always looking to that next peak, you know, that next mountain. Oh man. Yeah, he was a creepy watcher. Did I miss some follow-up on the DD&D heist on the Citadel? What was their plan with the demons? I think that was just one of the things that like just didn't really get too much interest on, or too followed up on. Like there weren't many requests about D&D, except from Oz, you know, of course, to try to like to try to tank their stocks. But otherwise, in terms of the demons, D&D, I guess I could reveal because that plot's over. But they were, a lot of the corporations were on these big conspiracies to try to secure their markets. And theirs was like, okay, how do we get more magical items, and how do we get more stuff? How do we monopolize on like the D&D fantasy? And part of their thing was like, oh, maybe if we like make demons, we start making our own dungeons, we start doing this ourselves, we start luring people, you know, not quite luring people, but you know, testing them. We're gonna make our own, you know, market like focused demons. They'll be super deadly. I'm realizing now I'm kind of describing Dungeon Crawler Car. But sort of the idea that like people would come, they'd bring their gear, they'd bring their old stuff, they would fit these demons with things, and then bam, they're making a killing. So that was kind of their plan. So in theory, in Rhapsody, we will reach a point we would have to start a new character because the original would be dead. I mean, they might not be. Like, if your character started, you know, I mean, I guess, yeah, once we get to like, it's been 100 years, then yeah, you might have to pick a new character. Which would be very interesting to do. But we've got quite a few chapters before we get to that point. We've got like the 1 year, the 10 year, you know, 20, maybe we'll go to 50 year after that. Anywho, could Fina remove Oz's curse? I don't think so. Jacobus is just going to possess a new body somehow. Exactly. He's just got to figure it out within the next 50 years. That's all it is. Oh, man. Anais, challenge accepted. That is true. There are some of you who might go down that path of being like, and so okay, so now you understand, JB, why, you know, these characters might all be searching and hunting for immortality and a way something to live forever. It's you guys, you did it. It's gonna be Anais trying to figure out like her own, you know, zombie form corpse that she jumps into or something, or maybe she plants a seed, or oh my god, Anais is the precursor to Lou's character, who I'm now blanking on, even though we call it Magnolia. Yeah, Anais is the precursor to Magnolia. She plants herself and grows again. Wow, it all comes full circle. Well, those are all the questions I have listed here, y'all. I'll give you a moment to see if there's any other questions. Wait, can Jacobus and Anais be in a coven with Anais? Oh, like the new Anais that sprouts from the thing? That'd be interesting. I don't know. Don't know. Where the Higher realm? go to the high roads. Let's go see all of our friends. Any last questions, y'all? Also, the 20 to 30 year gap is bigger than I thought. I thought we were only 5 years in the future. Even as a goddess, Magnolia is like a weed. Yeah, it is bigger than I thought it was going to be at first as well, but some of the way things played out at the end sort of changed a few things. What questions should we have asked but didn't? Yes. The question is always most important. One you didn't ask. Even as a goddess? I don't know. Maybe not in his physical form. When he becomes like a, emissary, I forgot what it's called. But yeah, I don't know if there's any other questions you guys have. So Rhapsody is more than 5 years in the future. I gotta change Amelia's backstory. Are there any maps or anything you guys recall that you want to try to find? Again, it is hell in here, as you can see from my many folders. Oh, this battle was cool. Battle on the mirror. Here. When she transforms him into her eternal sugar daddy. Yeah. Well, he's a sugar baby. You're her sugar mom. You're his sugar mom. So I think that's how that works. Our inside of our friend over here, Faldorn. Muku coming back into the ring. That was a blast. Remember John's idea of rerunning sessions Danger Room style? Was there a map you wanted to visit? Oh yeah, that was a great idea, John. It's just so hard because there's always so many new things we want to do. But it would be cool to go through, like, if we could pick like a top like 5 or something. That would be cool. Jump between them. This was the battle with the End virus here. Mewtwo on the side. Yeah, that was crazy. We need to go back to the moon and check on those robots. Yeah. Oh man, here's a specific one, but that was a long time ago. That's always how it is. Sometimes it's like a blur where it's like, what just happened? But I think that's like a sign of like how good it is sometimes, where it's like you're so in the moment where you're like, whoa, went by so fast. All right, final calls for any questions, y'all. Again, I know I missed a few, but thanks again for the subs. Appreciate it. But let's see, Canberry. Pick a place in Canberry. It's not where we ended. Scotty. Yeah, I almost ended the session on this map. Kind of wanted the characters to be here looking at standing on the bridge looking at the sun. Are you going to do a wrap up for this campaign like you did for C1? I probably won't do it because there's so much more going on here. But also because I think like a lot of the characters, as opposed to before where it was so much more clear, where like, and this person went on to go this, and this person went on to go this, and this person went on to go and do this. I think this one was a lot more like, for a lot of our characters, we know what they went on to go do. But for some of our other ones, I don't think this is like the end of their story. I think like this is one chapter and they go their separate ways, but they kind of, um, yeah, I think it's still unclear. Like if, for example, if Nero, Nero's immortal technically, so is Stark, he's immortal, so is Gallius. Um, yeah, I don't like it open. We didn't go this direction, but a few of us were wondering about wishing on the scales for the scales to be destroyed. What would have happened if we would have tried this? The dragon would have said they can't do that, but they could make them inert for 10 years. And that would have been the option. Lou asks, how do you feel about street magic? Street magic's role in this campaign. Street Magic is the game that we played. Do I have it here? Inside here? Or is it on another Roll20 thing? I think it is. Yeah, it's in another Roll20 thing. The Street Magic stuff. I loved Street Magic so much. I still love it so much. I really like how much it affected these towns, these areas we started in. It gave them so much flavor, so much history, so much to work with. And I like that everyone got to be a part of it, that things got to sort of live a life of their own. I love the collaboration part of everything. As I always say, it's like one of my favorite things. So I'm always trying to figure out new ways I can do that. Like the premise for the Rhapsody campaign doesn't lend itself as well to that. So I'm trying to find other ways that we can still get that interaction and that sort of collaboration in terms of choosing the shape and the direction of how things might come out. And part of that is like in these jumps and in these gaps, I want players to be able to say like, yeah, we build this over here, we do this, and we build this area, and in this year our characters did this X, Y, and Z. So I kind of want those periods to be a little bit more of like your guys' time to be able to say like, yeah, it has been 5 years. My character used to be a chipper, happy-go-lucky person, but in these 5 years they've been jaded from working in an office all this time, and now they want to get back on the streets like once they heard that like missions were available again. So I like that. Yes, the Legend of Astrogator is still making waves. All right, next August you guys find the scales and wish for that. Oh god, I just realized there is balance. All the people we save from the final battle, other people will die. Other people will always die. What are you gonna do? 10 years would be a good break from the race. Yeah. Vaughn is immortal too. That's right. Thank you again, Ryan. I think that's it, y'all. Think there's any more questions we have? Oh man, John I just realized he needs to change his handle. That's right. Man. Oh, good break for the people of Albion. Yeah, good break for them. Well, that's it for. Thanks for tuning in, y'all. Once again, say goodbye to Albion, Canberry. This whole town here, when it started out like this, didn't have much of anything. I could erase all these things now, so I just put them on GM level. The old Canberry map. Thank you guys. And how much it changed and how much everything changed because of you guys and your choices. It's been a blast. Thanks again, everybody, for tuning in. Greatly appreciated. And appreciate all of you. Been a memorable birthday. I'm glad we got to do this. You guys have a great night. I'll see you in the next one.